Nero, one of the most infamous emperors in Roman history, is often remembered for his extravagant lifestyle, his cruelty, and his erratic behavior. But behind the myths, the rumors, and the sensationalized accounts lies a much more complex story. One that is filled with hidden scandals and forbidden acts that not only shocked the ancient world, but have left a lasting imprint on history. Nero's name is synonymous with tyranny and excess, but his reign, though short, was marked by decisions and actions that pushed the boundaries of moral and social norms in ways that had far-reaching consequences for the Roman Empire and beyond. In this video, we'll explore some of the darkest corners of Nero's rule, uncovering the hidden scandals and forbidden acts that have been buried by time and misinterpretation. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more deep dives into the untold stories of history's most controversial figures. Make sure to turn on notifications so you can stay updated with our latest videos. Let's step into the shadowy world of Nero's reign. Nero's rule began in 54 AD, and for a time he was seen as a promising leader. He inherited the throne at a young age, under the guidance of his mother, Agrippina the Younger, and his tutor, the philosopher Seneca. Early in his reign, Nero's actions seemed to align with the expectations of a ruler. He appeared to be compassionate, and his government, under the influence of wise advisors, focused on more moderate policies. But as the years went on, Nero's behavior became increasingly erratic, revealing the darker side of his personality. At the heart of Nero's hidden scandals were his relationships with the people closest to him. One of the most controversial and forbidden acts in his life was his relationship with his mother, Agrippina. Nero's ascent to power was largely due to his mother's machinations, but their bond quickly soured as Nero grew older. Agrippina, once a powerful figure in her own right, sought to maintain control over her son, but Nero had other plans. Tensions between the two escalated as Nero sought independence from his mother's influence. The relationship turned deadly when Nero ordered the murder of Agrippina in 59 AD. The manner of her death was gruesome and horrific, designed to appear as an accident, but it was clear that Nero had orchestrated her demise. The act shocked Rome, and many saw it as an indication of Nero's increasing paranoia and ruthlessness. Yet, the scandal didn't end with his mother's death. Nero's relationships with other women were equally scandalous and deeply troubling. After the murder of Agrippina, Nero's personal life spiraled into chaos. His first wife, Octavia, was accused of being barren and unfit for the emperor, leading to their divorce. Nero then married Poppaea Sabina, a woman known for her beauty and ambition. Poppaea was, however, a woman of deep cruelty, and Nero's obsession with her led him to commit acts that were far beyond what even the standards of Roman decadence might have expected. One of the darkest moments of Nero's reign was the murder of Poppaea in 65 AD. According to some accounts, Nero kicked her to death in a fit of rage, while she was pregnant with their child. The event, however, was portrayed by Nero as a mere accident, but many historians and contemporaries believed otherwise. The shocking nature of this act revealed Nero's volatile nature and the extent to which he was willing to go to preserve his desires and power. But Nero's scandals weren't limited to his family life. His rule was also marked by a series of brutal political purges and the systematic elimination of anyone he saw as a threat. Senators, military leaders, and even close friends of Nero's were executed or forced into suicide to maintain the emperor's grip on power. One of the most notorious incidents of Nero's reign was the Pisonian conspiracy in 65 AD, where a group of senators and nobles plotted to overthrow him. The conspiracy was discovered, and those involved were swiftly executed, with their families also facing the wrath of the emperor. Nero's paranoia reached such heights that he began executing people on the mere suspicion of treason. Perhaps one of the most scandalous aspects of Nero's reign was his role in the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. The fire, which destroyed much of the city, was blamed on Nero, though the details of the event remain unclear. Some ancient historians claimed that Nero had started the fire himself, while others suggested that he had simply been indifferent to the destruction. What is certain is that Nero's response to the fire was callous. Instead of using his power to organize relief efforts, he allegedly played his lyre and sang about the fall of Troy, a scene that would forever become linked to the emperor's cruelty and disregard for the suffering of his people. In the aftermath, Nero seized the opportunity to rebuild parts of the city, including the creation of his lavish Domus Aurea, a palace that stood as a symbol of his excess and indulgence. Nero's extravagant tastes and disregard for the public's welfare also extended to his financial policies. The empire's treasury was drained by his lavish spending on grandiose projects, including his extravagant public performances, theater productions, and banquets. Nero was known for his indulgence in the arts, often forcing high-ranking citizens and even slaves to perform for his amusement. The emperor's obsession with his own fame led him to present himself as a great artist, even taking to the stage as an actor and musician. This not only scandalized Roman society but also alienated many of his supporters. The idea of the emperor, who was supposed to represent the dignity of Rome, performing in such a way was seen as an embarrassment. Despite his many scandals, Nero's reign was not without its successes. He was a capable military leader and secured victories in the East, but his internal politics and erratic behavior ultimately led to his downfall. By 68 AD, the Senate, the military, and the people had grown weary of his cruelty and excess. Revolts broke out across the empire, and Nero found himself facing a crisis that he could not control. His supporters abandoned him, and he was declared a public enemy by the Senate. Nero fled Rome, and in the end, he took his own life, marking the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. The legacy of Nero is one of corruption, excess, and cruelty. His name is forever associated with tyranny and scandal, and his reign has been the subject of fascination for centuries. But behind the myths and the rumors lies a deeper truth, a story of a man who was both a product and a perpetrator of the imperial system that demanded obedience and submission. Nero's acts were not merely the whims of a madman, but the result of a system that allowed power to be concentrated in the hands of one man. The scandalous nature of his actions was not just a reflection of his personal failings, but also a reflection of the dangers of unchecked power. As we reflect on Nero's reign, we must also consider the broader lessons it offers. His story serves as a reminder of the dangers of absolute power, the destructive effects of corruption, and the consequences of a society that values spectacle over humanity. Nero's hidden scandals and forbidden acts are a testament to the dark side of history, but they also offer valuable insights into the complexities of power and the consequences of its abuse. The fall of Nero in 68 AD did not mark the end of his legacy. It only amplified the intrigue and mystery surrounding his life. In the centuries that followed, his name would be used as a symbol of tyranny, decadence, and the dangers of absolute power. But as with many figures from antiquity, the truth of his reign has been obscured by time, sensationalized accounts, and political agendas. One of the most fascinating aspects of Nero's life is the way in which his rule has been portrayed in different historical texts. Ancient writers such as Suetonius, Tacitus, and Dio often painted Nero as a tyrant whose cruelty knew no bounds. While these accounts were undoubtedly influenced by the political climate of the time, most notably the Flavian dynasty's attempt to discredit the previous Julio-Claudian rulers, there may have been more to the story than meets the eye. Nero's reign was marked by contradictions, and some modern historians suggest that the emperor's actions were, in fact, more complex than the typical portrayal of him as a mad despot. Nero's efforts to reform and improve Roman society are often overshadowed by his notorious successes. His support for the arts, for example, was immense. Nero was known to be a patron of poets, musicians, and actors, though his personal performances in the theater were often seen as embarrassing. He not only commissioned public works of art, but also took part in festivals and competitions, where he often declared himself the winner, sometimes even when the crowd disagreed. His performances were more than just a personal vanity. They were an extension of his desire to solidify his image as a ruler who was intimately connected with the cultural life of Rome. However, Nero's love for the arts was also part of a broader agenda to present himself as the new face of Rome, a ruler who could reshape the empire through his personal charisma. His participation in chariot races, theater performances, and musical competitions can be seen as part of his effort to engage with the Roman people on a personal level. He understood that spectacle was one of the most powerful tools of control, and he used it to craft an image of himself that was both accessible and larger than life. But these public spectacles did not sit well with everyone. Nero's obsession with the arts and his disregard for traditional Roman values alienated many of the empire's elites. In their eyes, Nero's actions were an affront to the dignity of Rome. It was one thing for an emperor to sponsor the arts. It was another entirely for the emperor to perform in them himself. This clash between Nero's vision for Rome and the expectations of the aristocracy created deep resentment. And it is no surprise that his reign eventually spiraled into chaos. One of the more subtle, but still significant, aspects of Nero's rule was his relationship with the Senate. In the early years of his reign, Nero was seen as a weak emperor who was heavily influenced by his mother and his advisors. However, as time went on, Nero began to assert his authority, and he did so with increasing cruelty. His relationship with the Senate became strained, especially when he began to purge those he saw as threats to his power. This is most notably seen in the Pisonian conspiracy, where a group of senators and nobles attempted to overthrow Nero. The conspiracy was foiled, and the aftermath was brutal. Many of the accused conspirators were executed, along with their families. Nero's actions in response to this plot revealed the depths of his paranoia and his willingness to go to any lengths to maintain control. The Pisonian conspiracy is a clear example of Nero's growing isolation from those who once supported him. It was a turning point in his reign, after which he increasingly relied on his own instincts, often disregarding the advice of his more experienced advisors. The conspiracy not only revealed the discontent within the Roman elite, but also demonstrated the fragility of Nero's power. His reaction to the plot, a ruthless purge of anyone who might pose a threat, only served to solidify the perception that he was a ruler consumed by fear and insecurity. Beyond the political purges and his obsession with the arts, Nero's reign was also marked by military tensions. Though he is often remembered for his cruelty and excess, Nero was also a capable military leader, particularly in his campaigns in the East. One of his most significant military achievements was his victory over the Parthian Empire, which secured Roman control over Armenia. This success, however, was overshadowed by his growing unpopularity at home. While Nero's military achievements were lauded by some, they were largely overshadowed by his domestic policies and scandals. But it was not just Nero's personal scandals that led to his downfall. By 68 AD, the Roman Empire was beginning to experience a crisis of succession. The Senate, along with several key military commanders, had grown disillusioned with Nero's rule. His financial mismanagement, the drain on the empire's resources, and his lack of leadership in times of crisis contributed to the unraveling of his empire. The people of Rome, who once cheered his every move, began to turn against him, and rebellion spread throughout the provinces. As revolts broke out, Nero's once loyal supporters began to abandon him. His last days were marked by desperation. He fled the city, and in a final act of defiance, he took his own life. His death marked the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, and the empire was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered reign. Nero's passing was the final chapter in a reign that had started with promise but ended in scandal, excess, and bloodshed. In the aftermath of Nero's death, the empire entered a period of instability known as the Year of the Four Emperors. This was a time of great uncertainty for Rome, as rival factions fought for control of the empire. The power vacuum left by Nero's demise was a reminder of the fragility of the imperial system and the dangers of unchecked authority. Nero's legacy is one of contradictions. He is remembered as a tyrant, a man who used cruelty and fear to maintain power. Yet, he was also a man who sought to leave his mark on history through the arts, through public spectacle, and through his military achievements. His life and reign raise important questions about power, leadership, and the costs of absolute authority. While his name is forever associated with scandal and excess, it is also a name that speaks to the complexities of ruling an empire, of balancing the demands of the people, the Senate, and the military, all while trying to maintain control over a vast and diverse empire. In many ways, Nero's life mirrors the tensions that exist within all systems of power. His ambition, his need for control, and his inability to navigate the complex web of Roman politics ultimately led to his downfall. But his reign also serves as a warning, an example of what can happen when power becomes too concentrated in the hands of one person. It is a reminder that even the most powerful rulers are not immune to the consequences of their actions. As we reflect on the hidden scandals and forbidden acts of Nero, it's important to consider the broader implications of his reign. How does history remember those who wield power in such destructive ways? What lessons can we learn from the rise and fall of this controversial emperor? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation about the complexities of leadership and the impact of power on history. As we conclude our exploration of Nero's reign and the scandals that defined his legacy, it becomes clear that his story is one of complexity, ambition, and ultimately, ruin. Nero's life was not merely a tale of unrestrained cruelty, though that is often the focus of historical accounts. It was a tragic tale of a man who sought to reshape the Roman Empire according to his own desires, but whose unchecked power and erratic behavior led to his inevitable downfall. Nero's reign stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of absolute power. While his earlier years were marked by some promise and attempts at reform, it was his personal failings, his paranoia, his cruelty, his obsession with public spectacle, that ultimately sealed his fate. His relationships with those closest to him, from the brutal murder of his mother to the execution of friends and conspirators, highlight the lengths he was willing to go to maintain control, even at the cost of his own humanity. One of the most significant aspects of Nero's rule was his use of spectacle. Whether it was the bloodshed in the arenas, the lavish public performances, or the cruelty of his political purges, spectacle became the primary means through which Nero maintained his authority. It was a tool that not only entertained but also solidified his image as a ruler above reproach. But this same spectacle, so central to his reign, also contributed to his downfall. The public's initial admiration for his grand displays of power eventually turned into disgust, as his behavior became increasingly erratic and out of touch with the needs of the people. In the end, Nero's reign serves as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in the pursuit of absolute control. It is a story of how power can corrupt and how the pursuit of personal glory can lead to the ruin of both the individual and the empire. But it is also a story of the fragile nature of leadership. Even the most powerful rulers are not immune to the forces of discontent, and when those forces grow strong enough, they can bring down even the most formidable of empires. Nero's downfall came swiftly and violently, but it also marked the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. With his death, the empire was thrown into chaos, and the people of Rome were left to pick up the pieces of a once great empire that had been torn apart by its own rulers. The aftermath of Nero's reign was a period of instability, marked by civil war and uncertainty. But even in death, Nero's legacy continued to haunt the Roman Empire, as his name became synonymous with tyranny and excess. What can we learn from the life and reign of Nero? His story raises important questions about the nature of power, the dangers of unchecked authority, and the role of spectacle in leadership. It reminds us that even the most powerful rulers must remain grounded in the realities of their time and the needs of their people. Nero's story is not just one of ancient history. It is a reflection of the timeless struggles between ambition, power, and responsibility. As we close this chapter on Nero's hidden scandals and forbidden acts, let's take a moment to reflect on how history remembers those who wield power. Nero's name may be forever tied to cruelty and excess, but his reign also offers valuable lessons about the complexities of leadership and the consequences of abusing power. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the darker corners of history. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of the past. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think Nero's reign teaches us about the nature of power and leadership? We'd love to hear your perspective.